Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. Today we're going to learn how to create a sick lightning effect in After Effects using some simple techniques. Let's jump right in. First, create a new composition. In my case, I'm going with 1920 by 1920, 30 frames per second. Let's name it Thunder. Now grab your pen tool and draw a lightning bolt shape like this. We only need the stroke, no fill. Once you've drawn your main shape in a few branches, rename these layers to Main, B1, B2, and B3. Select all your layers and search for Taper in the Effects panel. Change both the start length and end length values to 100. Copy those values by hitting Ctrl-C, then paste them onto the other layers. For the branch layers, B1, B2, and B3, let's change the stroke width down to about 5. With all layers still selected, add the Wiggle Paths effect. Set the size to around 120 and wiggles per second to 1. This gives us that organic, electric look. Now select the main layer and add a Trim Paths effect. Press U to reveal the properties, then add keyframes on both the start and end values. Move forward about 20 frames, add another set of keyframes, then drag your start keyframes back to the beginning. At the end position, change the start value to 100 and the end value at the beginning to 0. This creates our lightning strike animation. Press F9 to ease these keyframes, then head into the graph editor and adjust the curves like this to get that snappy motion. Around frame 17, add a keyframe on opacity. Press T to bring it up. Then around frame 24, add another keyframe and drop that value to 0. Hit F9 again to ease and tweak the graph for a smooth fade out. Now select the B1 layer and add Trim Paths again. Do the exact same animation we just did on the main layer. Adjust the graph editor curves, then copy the opacity animation from main and paste it onto B1. Once that's done, copy all these keyframes from B1 and paste them onto B2 and B3. Adjust their position to line up with the main layer. Select all keyframes from B1, B2, and B3. Hold Alt, and drag the end keyframes to stretch the timing like this. Time for some texture. Select the main layer and add Turbulent Displace. Change the size to 154, then Alt plus click on the evolution stopwatch, and type in the expression time times 250. Copy this effect and paste it onto B1. Change the amount to 23, size to 99, and in the evolution expression, change 250 to 200. Copy this effect again and paste onto B2 and B3, making small adjustments to the values. Also adjust B3's position slightly for a smoother look and scale it down just a bit. Now let's add some glow. Create a new adjustment layer and add a glow effect. Around frame 10, add a keyframe on intensity. At frame 22, add another keyframe, then go back to frame 16. Add one more keyframe and bump the intensity up to around 4. Add a glow effect. Set the threshold to 40, radius to 90, and intensity to 0.6. Duplicate that glow effect, change the threshold to 20, radius to 280, and intensity to 0.3. Before we move on, change the B3 stroke width to 2. Select the adjustment layer again and add an exposure effect. Alt plus click on exposure and type. Wiggle 10, 3. This adds a nice electric flicker. Enable motion blur for each layer by clicking the motion blur switches. Now select all your layers and pre-comp them. Name it Thunder. Duplicate that pre-comp, make it solo, and add the roughen edges effect. Change the edge type to spiky and adjust the values to get a more chaotic, energetic look. The values will depend on your stroke width. Alt plus click on Evolution and type. Time times 150. Unsolo the layer, offset it slightly, and change the blending mode to add. Select both layers and pre-comp again. Name this one FN Thunder. Scale it down and position it like this. For a cool reflection effect, duplicate the FN Thunder layer, right-click, go to Transform, and select Flip Vertically. Adjust the position and scale, then rename it to Reflection. Create a new solid and add fractal noise. Change the contrast to 168, then add Fastbox Blur with a radius of 4. Pre-comp this layer and name it Reflection Map. Toggle the reflection map to 3D, press R for rotation, and change the X rotation to 90 degrees. Adjust the position like this, then add CC Reptile, and adjust until the reflection fits properly. Hide the reflection map layer once you're done. Select the reflection layer and add compound blur. Set the blur layer to reflection map, the maximum blur to 90, and change the blur mode to effects and masks. Finally, add a new adjustment layer and throw on a hue saturation effect. Shift it to a green shade, then increase the saturation and lightness just a bit to taste. Remember, this is just one way to do it. There are infinite possibilities, so feel free to experiment and make it your own. And that's it. If you enjoyed this tutorial, drop a like and let me know what you think. Catch you in the next one.